Is it gone? Oh. Huh? Oh, okay. Could you help Jayraj come up? Yeah. Yeah, if you guys take a seat. Yeah. Yeah. And Barry, please. So Barry, Jayraj, Anil will hopefully come back from coffee. Okay, so we thought for the final session, what we'd do is we would do something that's never been done before, which is a DAS president session. And this is essentially, I'll show you. I used AI for this one as well, and everyone looked a bit mafioso, so I didn't want to keep that on for too long. But what I've got is, unfortunately, Adrian Pearce was going to sort of chair this session with us, but he couldn't be here. So I asked him to send us a little video message, which is this one, and then I'll start off the presentation. So this is from Adrian Pearce.
Hello, I'm Adrian Pearce. I'm one of the early chairmen of the Society, and I'm sorry that I can't be with you today due to family illness. I'd like to mention another person who can't be with you today, and that is Dr. Ralph Vaughan, who sadly passed away earlier this year. He was the first chairman of the Society, and very important both for the creation and development of it. It looks to be a very exciting programme, and I'm really sorry I can't be there, and I can only really send my best wishes to all the people I would have liked so much to meet again. I hope you have a really enjoyable day. Thank you.
And that's from Adrian. So Adrian, as I said, Sally couldn't be here, but he also mentioned Ralph Vaughan, who was the first chairperson for Difficult Airway Society, and Sally passed away earlier this year. We did do an obituary in the newsletter, not the one just come, the one previous one. So I think you'll be able to get access to that if you would like to read about him and his achievements. So just to catch up on what we've done and where we are now. So in 1995, we had the first DAS annual scientific meeting held at Guy's Hospital, where Adrian used to work. And 10 years later, in 2005, we had the 10th anniversary annual scientific meeting in Lille, France. The 20th anniversary was WAM1 Dublin in 2015, and in 2025 at WAM3, and you've heard in Florence, Italy, will be the 30th anniversary annual scientific meeting. That's a little bit of history from where we are and where we were and where we are now. In terms of ASMs, we've had multiple ASMs all over the country. Some places have had more than one, but you can see the geographical spread around the whole of the country, and it's great that we've covered all areas, and it's something that we like to do. We like to spread out our ASMs to different regions of the country. Next year will obviously be we'll be in London, as you've heard, and the year after that will be WAM3 in Florence. So we'll be looking for calls of LOC interest for 2026, and who knows what that dot will be. So in front of us, we have almost 2 decades worth of DAS presidents before you, and I put in DAS presidents. Here we go. So what I've got is a list of our presidents here. So from 2006 to 2009, we had Professor Chris Frerk, who was a chairperson at the time. And then Professor Eleanor Sutherland between 2009 and 2012, and then Jayraj between 2012 and 2015, followed by Anil Patel 2015-2018, and then Barry Maguire 2018 to 2021. Then I took over in 2021, and I finish next year. I did put it into AI, and I got this sort of mafioso picture, which is what I used at the beginning. And then I thought, let me sort of make it look a bit more biblical. And then I got this one, and then I put the faces on, but it still doesn't look quite right. So what I've decided to do is we're going to basically spend a little bit of time on each sort of president's presidency during their term. At the bottom, I've just put down my own personal involvement with each president throughout my sort of DAS career. So I'm going to invite each president. I'm going to go in reverse order. So I'm going to start off with Barry, and Barry's term was during probably one of the most difficult times for DAS as a president during the COVID pandemic. So just to start off with, Barry, I just want to ask you what it was like being the DAS president during the pandemic and how the pandemic sort of affected the way we ran DAS and DAS Matters at the time.
Thanks, Imran. Yeah, I think it was a very unusual time to be DAS president or to be on a committee that involved normally meeting up face-to-face and having ASMs and committee meetings in person, and that was very much my experience as being a secretary. And then quite quickly things changed, and yeah, it was a bit dissatisfying, a bit disappointing, but I think at the time we all were just getting on with our acute care jobs, and perhaps DAS took a bit of a back seat, inevitably. So I think for me it was a little bit personally disappointing because I'm a person's person. It's not great English. A people person. And so doing things online and so on was suboptimal. But I felt very supported by the group. It was still good fun. No regrets at the time. I think at the time you're just dealing with COVID, aren't you, and your clinical work. So I don't think at the time I thought it was anything more than a little bit frustrating. But looking back now, I'm definitely have a little tinge of disappointment, I have to confess. And a little bit of envy even when I, see, I think I had one ASM, one no ASM year, and one virtual ASM.
Stand again, Barry.
Yeah, I'd never get back in.
Might be someone available, a place available in 2024. You never know.
But on a positive note, on a positive note, how we got together with regards to delivering some guidance, even algorithms, on COVID was really heartwarming, and I think DAS had a role to play. I think it helped, and there was international collaboration in that. So on a positive note, in a tough situation, it was very rewarding as well.
Yeah, I was going to come to the COVID guidelines because they came about very quickly, and you got a group together at very difficult times. Can you just talk to us about that process of writing the guidelines and how that happened?
Well, as you say, it was done very quickly, and definitely corners were cut, and so Kareem's rule book was thrown out the window, and we had Tim, and we all know what Tim's drive is like to produce something. But we definitely were on a schedule. There was no point producing guidance for 3 years hence. It had to be done in months. It had to be didactic. It had to be opinion. So is it a guideline or is it a consensus statement? Because guidelines should be based on evidence, and we had some evidence, but it was soft. Came from experts and people who'd experienced horrendous things in other countries, China and Italy notably, prior to us. And we were making fairly unilateral decisions which were changing all the time, because at one point this technique X was considered an AGP, and then soon afterwards we had some more evidence and it was no longer an AGP. So it wasn't an ideal scenario for producing guidance, but at the same time, I think we did a pretty good job. And again, it was quite rewarding to do something that you thought, actually, this might help right now.
And I think it did guide a lot of people into how to manage COVID intubations. That's not the only thing you've done. You were also a DAS secretary prior to that, and then you're currently, hopefully, almost finishing the ethics guidelines, which you are the chairperson for. How's that going? And how was that process?
Yeah. So we're nearly done. It's been really, really hard, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I think just writing something as challenging as ethical guidance for someone who's not trained in that field, a subject that's very wordy, that's very nuanced, doesn't have much evidence. It's been really tough, and I can thank Anil for many, many things. But the ethics guidance, do you not remember it was your baby? You do. The way you were looking at me there, I wondered. And I'll thank him eventually if we successfully get it all out there, which I hope we will, because we're really at the final draft. But that's been really tough, just because of its ill-defined nature, I would say. And so we've rewritten it so many times, and it's so difficult to keep it from getting verbose, because it's all about words and nuance and opinions, rather than statute or real evidence. But I'd like to think in a little while, Imran, I'll look back and think that was pretty cool. But at the moment, I'm still sort of caught in the middle of it. We all know what it's like to write guidelines. But yeah, it's been really, really hard. But as I say, I hope at the end of it we'll give something that doesn't exist at the moment.
Yeah, once you come out the other side, it's a lot easier to look back onto. And on a personal note, you were the president when I was the secretary, and I definitely learned a lot from you, and you're one of the nicest people we know, and I love the fact that you have such a big interest outside of work, which is your cycling, which you are not bad at, from what I understand. So thank you very much, Barry. Okay, and you took over. Oh, yes, clap. You took over from Anil Patel. I tried to keep this onto one page, so there's obviously lots of other things that I'm missing out. He was DAS president between 2015 and 2018. I've highlighted some of the things in red that I thought I would just bring up. First of all, what was it like being president, Anil?
Yeah, it was great fun, actually. Before I started, can I just say that out of everyone sitting here, I think Barry definitely got the worst gig here. You know, I mean, and actually praise him for the fact that he steered the society through 3 of the most horrendous years that any of us can imagine, and he did it really well. And he did it. He did a fantastic job during that period.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway.
You had an easy time.
We all had a really easy time by comparison. 2015-18 was great. It was really good fun. There's lots of really exciting stuff happening. I think I can't remember actually being president. Yes, the evening dinners used to get quite merry, but no, it was a very enjoyable, exciting time. There's a lot of stuff that was happening, a lot of new things that were happening. That was a brilliant group. I mean, if you remember, at the DAS committee meetings, there's loads of ideas being bounced around, and so it was an absolute pleasure to be a part of.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of the things that I've got there are things that were sort of born during your sort of presidency and then sort of came out later, like the ATI guidelines, the human factors guidelines, which is almost out. Tell us a bit about the ATI guidelines and how all that came about.
Yeah, so it's a perfect example. I think we were all at a meeting. We were all having lunch. There was a group of us, yourself. Alistair was there. I think you were there, Ellen. There was a group of us, and we're all sitting there. And we've been involved with DAS. And one of DAS's primary aims in the early days was to promote awake tracheal intubation or fibre optic bronchoscopy or whatever we used to call it at that time. And actually, we came to a realization that there was a group of us that were very interested in this, but actually it hadn't really cottoned on very well at all. And actually, if you looked at numbers of people doing it, it wasn't that great. And it became obvious. I think you may have suggested it, and which was why don't we have some framework around which, rather than all of us as experts saying this is how you have to do it, why don't we just have some simple framework around which somebody who doesn't do it very often, doesn't do it, isn't an expert, inverted commas, has just some framework around which to undertake this and increase its uptake, and hence the ATI guidelines were formed. So most of these guys, the same with the human factor guidelines, actually. It's, I can remember around 2013, 14, 15, there's quite a lot more exposure around human factors, largely because of the work that Chris was doing in the human factors group there, the Martin Bromley work, the work that Tim was doing. And I'm sitting there going, and there were slides coming up, and I'm sitting there going, I don't know any of this. This is a foreign language to me. Now, I know it's really important. I spent the first 15, 20 years of my career looking at bits of tubing and angles of tubing and holes and what bits of tubing to stick in various holes. But this is so important, and yet I didn't know much about it. And it just seemed really obvious that we needed some guidance on it from the experts, and hence obviously Fiona was asked to do this, and Chris and a group came together and they produced these amazing guidelines, which of course, being initiated by us, obviously the association and other groupings wanted to be part of, which gives it even more value and even more importance, because it is so important. I'm still not sure we've really quite grasped it. We're still partly involved in how big's the tube and what hole and what size and what angle, when actually the human factors override everything. So we've still got a long, I think, more dissemination of that particular guideline.
Yeah, I think from listening to Richard Harris's lecture, the importance of human factors and planning and preparation and all that kind of stuff, I think there's a lot more for us to learn, so I completely agree. There's many other things that you're involved in. Thrive is one of them, and but also the thing I wanted to touch on is you're one of the founding executives of WHAM. Maybe touch on that a bit. How did that all start, and how did that sort of develop, and where we were and where we are now?
Yeah, so that's just a group of people getting together, which is the beauty of physical meetings like this. I don't know about you, but I feel like the 2 years of COVID with virtual meetings were just a blank. I can't remember anything from any meeting that I heard of any time during the whole of COVID. I don't remember who gave it. I don't remember what it was about. I don't remember anything. All these meetings, I tend to remember, actually. I remember conversations, remember what's going on. This physical interaction is so important. Anyway, so WHAM, I think it was around 2012 or so in Paris, one of the ESA, or I think it was ESA, there's obviously North American, Sam is there, we're there as DAS, and over lunch, we're both talking, the Society of Airway Management and DAS are talking about, we're coming up to our 20th anniversary in 2015. I'd been involved with the 2005 Lille meeting in France, which was great fun. And we just thought, well, why don't we have a meeting abroad somewhere? That would be quite good fun. And Sam were thinking along similar lines, so a group of us got together, and we just thought, right, we'll have the 20th anniversaries in Dublin, and it was great. So Ellen, Elizabeth Barringer, myself were involved with that, and then that rolled over into 5 years later in Amsterdam, and then again we'll probably do one more, and then others will take over for 2025. But that was good. That was, and I think they were pretty, they were great. It was great getting engaging with these different societies and just pulling everything together. It was really good fun, actually.
Yeah, it was a landmark event, and it's just got bigger and bigger. Yeah. So it's been amazing. And again, from a personal sort of perspective, it was a time where I had the idea of the ATI guidelines, and I wanted it to sort of be something. And I don't even think I was a committee member. I was a committee member, but quite junior then. And it was just your encouragement and support that made it all happen. And it's something that I think has been a huge success. So thank you. Thanks.
It's not all hasn't all been brilliant, actually. The
guidelines have been.
So obviously nothing. It doesn't always work. So the ePhoner database is quite a good example. So Tim and a number of us have been talking about that. Following on from NAT4, it seemed obvious that we need prospective data. The UK National Health Service is a brilliant way to do that. It's probably the only place in the world that can do that accurately. And I remember a meeting in just after I'd been appointed, sort of back end of 2015, early 2016. Telephone call, Tim, few others. saying, great, this should be eFurniture, done that for, we've got the structure in place. This should probably take, I thought, well, 6 months, year tops. Yeah, genuinely thought within a year this would be up and running. We're, for a whole variety of reasons, nobody's fault, but just structure, process, we're now 8 years down the line. And actually, a lot of the information has come out from other groupings, but I still think the eFurniture database in the UK, through our NHS structure, will be the gold standard for answering some of those questions.
And hopefully we'll get there. I know Al's working very hard on that with Tim. Okay, well, Anil, thank you very much. So Anil took over from Jayraj. So Jayraj was president between 2012 and 2015, and he's got a long history with DAS and has contributed across many different areas. And he introduced some really innovative things to DAS, which are still ongoing. So Jayraj, shall we talk about some of the things you introduced, like the industry award and the DAS professorship, which sort of happened during your term?
Yeah. Both of them, both projects really caught my interest. And the DAS professorship, this was actually brought about by Jaideep Pandit. He came up with that idea, and I just happened to be the president and supported him in his ideas. It was a brilliant project. He not only brought out the DAS professorship, he also did the PhD and so many other projects he came up with. Very clever man. And, you know, I just got my name in because I was the president, but I didn't do really much. Everything is Jaideep's idea. About the industry, I really felt this was a unrecognized or unrewarded group of people who help us in every aspect of airway management, right in the hospitals and in conducting workshops, conducting, you know, the airway management. So I thought that there must be some way we could honor these people in a forum like DAS. And so I came up with this, not a very expensive idea, because the medals are an expensive piece of business, but we gave them something less expensive, but very likable. You could keep it on your mantelpiece. And so the industry award came about. The first industry award went to Sybil Stores and Steve Guerini. I don't know if you all remember these people. Sybil Stores is the owner, now past owner of Stores. And Steve Guerini was the UK rep and European rep for Stores products. He was a driving force in all our airway workshops, anywhere in the country, even Ireland. And without him, you could not have an airway workshop. He went from place to place, loading scopes in the back of his van and driving to all places. He never went by train or anything. It was always his van. So this man, I felt, needed some recognition. And yesterday you have seen his his successor, Simon Murray, get another award for industry. So since then we have awarded so many other industry people like Anne Curitan from VBM. She was also outstanding. She's retired now. I don't know what she's retired from. She used to work from her home, and she used to manufacture kit in her kitchen. So amazing lady. And also Giles from Fanin. So these are the industry people we have recognized, and there are a lot more. I can name only a few. So many I might not have been naming them, but they are all very, very important. We should never forget the industry and their representatives.
Yeah, and I think when you speak to the recipients of those awards, they are so grateful, and they you know, for them it's such a big thing, a big achievement for them. During your term, you had two key events. One was the launch of the 2015 guidelines and the first WAM meeting. What was that like, being president at such two key events in the history of DAS?
I'm lucky I was involved as a president in those two events. I didn't participate in the 2015 guidelines, nor did I participate much in the WAM, because they were efficiently managed by Ellen and Anil and others. So I just happened to be the president in those events. That is all. Yeah.
Okay, but you have been involved in other. You've been involved in the critical care guidelines. You were involved in the NAP4 work as well.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. NAP4, I was not even the president or anything. I was just a DAS committee member. And then I got involved in that because of my interest in the, what do you call it, involvement of, oh my God. My interest in
Tracheostomies?
Hmm?
No.
no,
Critical care.
website.
Oh, the website. Yes, yes.
So my website interest took me into the NAP4, and I was mainly involved in producing the data sheet and interrogation of the data on the website, because all the forms were filled out online. There was no physical form to fill out in NAP4. So the analysis of that, we had organized or hired a team from Chennai in India, and they were doing the legwork. And I used to coordinate between Chennai and Tim and others, and at that time it was Nick Woodall as well. Mm-hmm. So we produced I think it was a fantastic piece of coordination between website links and production of data.
Yeah, integral part of DAS history, and you were my old boss when I was a first year registrar, and you definitely encouraged me to getting involved in DAS matters. So thank you, and yeah, thank you, Jayraj.
Thank you.
And Jayraj took over from Ellen. Ellen was president between 2009 and 2012. I definitely had to try and really squash this down to one page, which was almost impossible. Numerous accolades and many firsts. She was the first DAS president and the first female chairperson, stroke president of DAS. What was that like?
I don't know. I think DAS is a little bit of a family. We all knew each other very well, and I just felt like one of the family. And I was very lucky to take over from Chris at a very exciting time. Our committee meetings went on all day. It was just such an exciting time because Chris and Tim Cook were in the middle of NAP4. It wasn't launched then. They'd collected the data. And to say we all knew this was special even back then was an understatement. There was huge anticipation of its publication, which was launched in 2011, just sort of halfway through my presidency. And it really did, I mean, it is still quoted at every single lecture here over the last 3 days. It was seminal work, which I think gave DAS a roadmap for the future, because each of the chapters in the book had recommendations, and we got how are we going to implement this, and we felt, I suppose, DAS was the kind of vehicle that could do some of that. And I mean, if you look even at some of the top ones, you know, the capnography one, the no trace wrong place, and airway leads, all that, although Adrian was the first to mention that in his AGM report as secretary back years before that, it was really the impetus that DAS said, or that NAP4 said, we need airway leads to implement all these important recommendations. So then we started to work on the airway lead, getting that kind of implemented and getting the college to buy in, that it would be kind of through the college that these would be kept. And that kind of went on for a while, but that was, so it was a very busy, exciting time in DAS, I think, when I was there.
Yeah, and you sort of been involved in so many different projects, not just within DAS, but outside of DAS as well. And I often get asked, how do you find the time? So how do you find the time to be involved in so many different things?
Well, it's the team around you. I mean, there was such good people on the committee. If you wanted anything done, there was always somebody putting their hands up to volunteer. So brilliant people around. And I think DAS is all about the people, and I think the meetings, our annual meetings were brilliant always. I mean, I think all of us will remember the ones we were president. I was Cheltenham, Cardiff, and what was the third one? Bristol. We all, yeah. But because we go around the country to different regions, like here in Birmingham, I think it empowers everybody to be kind of part of DAS. You meet the local people who are doing the work on the ground, and Cheltenham was a great meeting. So was Cardiff, and what was the third one? Nottingham, wasn't it? No, Nottingham was the other one. So, and I think it's a bit like any college association, DAS, we're only as good as the members we have, and engaging them at these kind of meetings, I think is very important.
Okay, and I was just looking at you being involved in so many different of the guideline groups as well. Have you seen sort of a change in the way they're run and how the guidelines have sort of evolved over the years? Because you've seen them from almost from the first ones up to the most recent ones.
Yes, I mean, I think they've evolved in the sense that we had to travel to all the meetings for the first guidelines, for the DAS guideline, first DAS guidelines revision. And that was very useful because I think we know now even the face-to-face day that we have for the guidelines, they are buzzing, they are interactive, they're exhausting. But I think we're all kind of brainstorming. But they were quite difficult, weren't they? And they took longer for that reason as well. But also now we can do more of that over Zoom, which is probably quite good, so there's less face-to-face. But I think you still can't do them completely over Zoom. I mean, we had many examples of Anil writing on blackboards and various people, they were very interactive, very long process. They should be more streamlined, but I think they're still taking quite a long time because there's so much literature now to review as well. They are different. I had the experience of doing the American guidelines, and they're quite a different beast because they're all evidence-based. The opinion doesn't matter as much. It's all about the evidence, and it's all about the medical legal aspect. Whereas I think we put our kind of money where our mouth is, and our experience is very important. And all the members of the group, I think, just contribute so much of their experience to them. But they are a tough process. They are quite time-consuming, and I don't know if William realizes that they are people's experience. They are very important because we're all learning from each other all the time. I think I've learned an awful lot from being on these guideline groups as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, Ellen, thank you very much. And Chris, I didn't write much for because Chris is always slightly off-piste when you ask him anything. And he was chairman, I should say, chairperson between 2006 and 2009. And I asked him, Chris, you've been involved in so many things, human factors, you chaired the 2015 guidelines, you were involved in NAP4, there's all these amazing things you've been involved in. You introduced Ellen into DAS as well. What is it you'd like to talk about? And he gave me an off-piste answer, and it's, I think, very relevant to DAS and the feel of DAS. So Chris, why don't you just tell us what you want to talk to us about?
Well, that wasn't quite what you asked, was it? You said, what do you think your legacy will be for DAS? And I was saying, I don't really think I've got a legacy. There's nothing that I've created that I'm going to go away and leave behind. So I looked up legacy in the dictionary. And it's really the sort of stuff that I inherited from the people before me. And right from the start, when I was interested in airways, and before DAS was formed and Adrian was running courses at Guides, I'd go along, and I felt included right from the start, even though I was a trainee at the time, and there were lots of these airway experts and gurus. But they were all very encouraging and encouraged me to develop my interest. They invited me to speak at meetings. And that's what I felt that DAS had been doing as well. And when I was the chair, I really wanted to keep that going so that people in the audience wouldn't think that we were any different from anybody else. We're not. We're just the same as you, and that you are going to be the people, you know, the trainees, if there's any trainees left. Thanks very much, the hardcore, for staying. That there is nothing special about us. The thing that I've noticed about everyone else who's been on the committees, either as chair or whatever, they are people who are prepared to put more in than they take out. These folks put a huge amount of effort into making the society run, making Airway work in their own hospitals. And that's just really nice to see and really nice to be a part of. And that's what I've tried to give back to the society. And that when I go, I hope that everyone else who's receiving that will do the same. So it's not my legacy, it's what I've got, and I'm just passing it on to the next group. And
I'll go forwards and backwards. Do you think that legacy is continuing? Do you think we're managing to achieve that and maintain that?
I think we've pretty much, yeah. I think we've had some glitches along the way, but then the great thing is that afterwards we go, actually, we weren't very nice to, you know, we weren't very supportive of people asking questions in the audience that day. And we reflect back on that and go, actually, you know, that could spoil their impression of speaking up or asking questions. So generally, I think we are going in the right direction, yes. With Ellen saying she remembers every meeting. I'll just throw this one in as well. Every meeting. I was trying to think, what were the 3 meetings that I was at? And I remember Dundee. And I went to Dundee when it was face-to-face meetings. And went up the night before, stayed in a hotel, got renal colic and urosepsis. So I was actually admitted to Dundee Hospital in the morning. And so the first thing I said when I got there was, you know, they're going, you know, you're going to send you around for a CT scan. Would you like some morphine? I said, I'm supposed to be upstairs beating Barry Maguire. Can you ring him and tell him that I'll be up at about 11? When's the scan going to be over? You know, so you do remember all the meetings, not always for the right reasons, though.
And so you've seen sort of DAS from when it first started and how it's evolved. Can you give us, I mean, not many of us maybe remember the early days. Could you sort of share some of that experience
I'm very old.
with us?
It's always had the same feel for it. It's got much more scientific, much less, it was sort of technical skills, and we only had like 2 pieces of equipment you could have. And it started off with 70 people at a meeting and 200 members, and now, you know, we've got loads of, but the feel is the same, the workshop's the same, the conversations that are happening in between times are the same. There's just a lot more science. So I'm glad that other people are in charge now, because yeah, the science is really important, but making it accessible. You know, Kareem and other people have been talking about all this crazy science that I can't understand, and it's just distilled. And that's, I think, really nice. You see people taking notes, saying, I can do that one thing when I get, that's all you need. I can do that one thing when I get back to my hospital. And that's the essence of the future of DAS.
And I hope that continues. I just want to, I've asked you this question before about NAP4, when you were in the midst of NAP4 with Tim and all the other guys that were integral to it, and Nick. At that time, did you have any idea that NAP4 would be as big as it is, as influential as it is, and still have an impact even now, all those years later?
Not an inkling. I don't know what I said last time you asked me that question, but not an inkling.
The last time you said you knew that was going to happen.
Okay, we were absolutely certain it would have a huge impact, and that's why we stayed committed to it. No, it was great. It wasn't great fun because you were hearing lots of really sad stories, but the team is a huge team, and all the people working in the hospitals, sending the reports in, taking the time to do that. It was an awful lot of work, but it was easy to do because of the people that we're working with, up until the last 9 months or a year when we're actually writing it all up, and that was horrible. But the rest of it was really, there are just so many good people working in airway management trying to make it safer. It's a privilege to just be sitting there in the chair, like these guys say, didn't really do very much, but lots of other people did huge amounts of discretionary work for free. Pleasure to be there.
Yeah, and such impactful work. I'm going to ask you one last question, which is any advice for me as chair for the 2025 incubation guidelines group?
Yeah, I'll tell you, but not in front of everybody else.
Okay, brilliant. Well, Chris, thank you very much. So did anybody else want to make any other comments or add anything that I didn't ask or that you'd like to mention?
Or ask us at the front, or at the coffee, or on the way to the station. We're not going anywhere just yet, I don't know. But ask now if you want. Sorry.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience? So if we can take some if there are any. Any burning questions from back in the day or what happens behind the scenes?
Back in the day.
I would just say, Imran, if there are any trainees... There's a question. If there are any trainees who want to get involved in Airways, then just get involved. Because I was sitting in a taxi at a DAS meeting about 15 or 20 years ago as a young trainee, and Ellen joined me in the taxi just by coincidence. And she was incredibly humble and, just like it was said earlier on, and welcoming, even though I was a nobody, and said, oh, where are you from and what's your interest and all that sort of stuff. So it has been a sort of family thing. I didn't feel I had any kudos at all in Airway, but I was still treated as if I could get involved. So if any trainees are there thinking, how do you get involved? Just put yourself forward. That's all you have to do. Enthusiasm is the first step.
Who paid the taxi fare?
I think...
the treasurer.
I completely agree. I remember the first time when I joined the committee and Ellen was the president, and I was, oh my God, Ellen O'Sullivan, but so welcoming, made me feel so welcome. And even when I joined the 2050 Guidelines group, Chris was great as well. Gerald, I'll come to you in a second, but I just had a question over there. If you don't mind coming to the mic, there's one quite nearby.
Osama Saleh from King Faisal Hospital, Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much for the whole meeting, really very, very interesting and exciting. I just have got a question which I don't know the expertise answer would be, is direct laryngoscopy now we should really abandon, we shouldn't use it? Because we were just about to start some kind of project comparing how can predict difficult airway by using the direct laryngoscopy. And then I've got one of the experts in airway said, who wants to use direct laryngoscopy now when you got video laryngoscopy? And so he just actually made me question. And here, when I heard everybody talking about video laryngoscopy is the future, so should we not use direct laryngoscopy anymore? Is that going to be obsolete? Just you.
It's a safe environment, the DAS. We've had this question in some much less safe environments. So do you want to give a one-word answer, Imran?
Much more hostile environments previously. This is a good idea for a debate, actually, isn't it?
No.
Exactly.
I mean, I've got an answer, but any of you guys want to add anything?
Take your hospital the video way. It's not just you, but take your hospital the video way, I'd say.
I mean, some would say follow the evidence, and I think evidence
that's a good idea. That's what I say.
Quite compelling.
That's very modern. Follow the evidence.
Follow the evidence. Good. Gerard, you had a question.
Yeah, not a question. It's just a comment. There are two people who are not there in this group, which is Adrian Pierce and Mansoor Popat, who are also previously DAS, not presidents, they were called chairmen. And they have contributed immensely to DAS, and we shouldn't forget them.
Yeah, no, and both were invited as well. Again, hugely important people to the history of DAS. If there's no more questions, I would like you to please give our presidents a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Great. Al? Shall we do the prizes? Me? Oh. Okay, can I click? Am I allowed to click? Does it say, well, who's going to, where's Ashok? He's gone home. Can't see him. Ashok, come this way. Don't run the other way. Okay. I'm not going to press the next slide because it tells you who won them. So I think this is for you, Ashok.
Thanks, Imran.
We're coming back to the end of our meeting, and it's time to give away the awards for the posters and oral presentation. So for the oral presentations, we've got 2 joint second prizes, which is Dr. Murli Pandurangan and Dr. Nathan Gage. Please give them a round of applause. Are they here? Great. Is Nathan here as well? Right. Right. Well done. Good. The prizes will, the certificates will come to their emails. And the first prize goes to Dr. Munmun Majumdar. Munmun here? Ah, okay. Okay. Moving on to our poster prizes. Andrew Rogers, Jack Poynton, Tom Guy, Fabian, Gemma Summers, and Julia Harrington. Any of them here? Okay. Well done. Well done. Come on. Well done. Come on. And lastly, we've also got a medical student award for an outstanding poster by a medical student, which is M. Aftab. Is he around? I think he might have left, yeah. But thank you, everybody, for fantastic meeting. It's been some excellent presentations and excellent abstracts for the posters, really high quality, and it was a hard task getting the top prizes out, but well done to all the winners and well done to everyone who's contributed. Thank you.
Good. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. So I think what we're going to do now is close the meeting. So I'd just like to thank everybody. Again, thank the LOC for, I think it's been a wonderful meeting. It's a really good feel to it. We've really enjoyed it. I think real credit goes to the LOC. They spent a huge amount of time planning and preparing this. And a testament to their hard work, to what they've achieved. And, as a standing ovation for Richard Harris, what a phenomenal lecture. It's been absolutely brilliant. So congratulations, and thank you, Sajay, and very well done.
Yeah, I just want to thank all my team members in the local organizing committee and the task committee members, and all of you who have traveled from all over the world and made this a huge success, and also the industry partners, without whose help this won't be looking this good. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone. The meeting's closed. Thank you. Oh, yes. See you in London 2024.